Alright guys, if you are just joining us and this is a new channel to you, I welcome you. This video is going to talk about how to acquire software for the Apple II. And this covers all generations, the Apple II original all the way through the 2GS. What we have here is an Apple IIc that is complete, system unit, the 2C mouse, and the external disk 2C with the monochrome 2C monitor. The Apple IIc is an excellent machine to start off on if you're looking to enter the hobby of vintage computer collecting and restoration. There are many of these still available on eBay and Craigslist. I found this one on Craigslist. It was in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I paid $50 for it with the display and the system unit. So the prices aren't really outrageous yet, but they're getting to be. They're actually increasing in value, which is why I decided to buy one now. So eventually I can sell it and make a huge profit on it. Well, that'll be a few years. But anyway, one of the biggest challenges any computer collector faces is acquiring and maintaining software to run the machine on. Oftentimes you'll buy these with worn-out diskettes or without any at all. And that is what this video is for. We're going to talk about how to acquire software off the internet freely or at low cost and effectively. What we have here is just a few titles I've picked up and made diskettes of. And you might be wondering, well, where do you get floppy diskettes? We'll talk about that too. But we've got Zaxxon, which is an amazing game, very popular in the 80s, was an arcade game too. A Sherlock Holmes mystery game called Baker Street. And over here we have Battleship, Word Munchers, Pets Limited, Jenny's Journeys, Number Munchers, Pac-Man, Mech Educational Volume 1, Burger Time, Mech Energy House, Sticky Bear Basic, Apple Works. Yes, you can even get Apple software. The Home Accountant, ALF. That belongs over here. Put that in the front there. And all this was completely free, and you're now going to learn how to get it. Now, fortunately for me, I was able to purchase a large amount of 5 1/4-inch floppy diskettes. I have a few packs upstairs as well. Brand new, shrink-wrapped, never used. Now, if you're working on an Apple II, make sure you use 2S, 2D, or double density diskettes. One thing that you should know before you start is that the diskettes that you buy are generally for Windows machines, or not Windows, I'm sorry, DOS machines, and they're designed to work with double-sided drives. The Apple IIs use single-sided drives. If you were to take the drive apart, you'll see that there isn't two heads, but one head and a pressure pad. It's very important that if you plan on writing to both sides of the diskette, which you can do, you have to notch the other side to create a write protect notch here, or to take one out. And you have to manually flip the disk over when you've written on one side and you need to write on the other. It's a step that they don't really, not a lot of people know about that if they're not familiar with this type of hardware. And I believe that goes for all the Apple IIs using a 5 1/4-inch floppy drive, except for, of course, the 3.5-inch 800K diskettes used by the 2GS and the 2C Plus. But this is just an old-fashioned 2C. Another thing you should know is that the 2C is basically a compact version of the 2E. It shares most of the same logic and runs all the same software. But if you have a 2GS, you should know that you can run all the Apple II software, except you have the added advantage of better graphics and sound, which means that there is software written specifically for the 2GS. For this demonstration, we're going to be using a Windows machine, but as I've just proven, and I did have a video of this, but I lost it, you can do this on a modern Macintosh, a brand new, fresh out of the box Mac, with Yosemite. It will work actually works very well. But you need to acquire a few pieces of hardware. Number one, you actually need the correct null modem cable for your particular model of Apple. This is what the cable looks like. It has a just a 9-pin serial port, or you can even get them, I believe, in Apple serial. And on the other side, it has a 5-pin DIN connector. You can make your own cables if you have the knowledge and materials and the correct pinouts. But basically, you need to acquire or build a null modem cable that converts to, in this case, a 9-pin serial. The second thing you need, I just had it here, is a USB COM port, if your computer doesn't have one. This USB COM port and this cable are both available from a company called retrofloppy.com. Retrofloppy.com sells the cabling you need in order to run the ADT Pro software that makes this all possible. This is a fairly high-end $20 USB virtual serial port. And installation is going to vary based on the type of USB port you use and the software provided. So I won't really go over that, but this is what you have got to do. Before we start anything, we have to make sure that our USB port is installed and assigned a COM port number. This particular one is assigned COM4. On a Macintosh, you don't have to really worry about that. You just have to make sure the driver is installed and that it's detected by the ADT Pro software. The ADT Pro software for Windows is very easy to install. In fact, I'm going to bring you right to the page where you can basically get it. We're going to go to retrofloppy.com. This is where I bought these cables. And the other thing you need to know is they sell brand new in the box, new old stock floppy diskettes. And their prices are pretty steep, but they're getting harder and harder to find as time moves on. In fact, if I go to their pricing page, they'll tell me. This company sells disk transfer services, and that's what their primary business is. If we go to their products page, they have the price list for their cables, and the cable that we're using, which is this one here, it's designed for the Apple IIc Laser 128, which is a 2C clone, and has the 5-pin to 9-pin serial. It is a $20 part, and they sell this RS-232 adapter for $20 as well. So for $40 you can get yourself going unless you make or have the cables you need. The next thing you need is ADT Pro. ADT Pro is I believe it's open source. I found it on sourceforge.com. In fact, that's where their download link goes to. And you can download it for Windows, Linux, or Mac. And the cool thing about it is it allows you to it's compatible with both serial, Ethernet, and audio transfer. RetroChad did an excellent video on how to use ADT Pro on Linux using audio transfer. That works on the Apple IIe, the Apple II, and I believe the Apple II Plus. Audio transfer uses the old-fashioned cassette interface to transfer, send, and receive data to and from the machine. It's slow as hell, but it works. Okay, we've already installed ADT Pro, and one quick note I want to point out is that on Windows, there is no installation necessary. Once you download the ADT Pro software, all you've got to do is move the folder out of the zip file onto, you can put it anywhere on your machine you wish. In my case, I threw it on the root of drive C, and here it is. The ADT Pro software is all right there. Within the ADT Pro folder, you're going to find two folders, one that says disks and one that says lib. The disks folder is where all of your downloaded disk images must go. Where do you get disk images? I'll show you. I go to a website that has, I've been downloading stuff all day long. It's so cool. Apple2online.com has all the software that you'll ever want to get yourself going. There are other websites out there, that have more software, but this one seems to have a really strong, healthy library. Why don't we do this? Why don't we download a game? I'm going to download Alpine Encounter. And we're going to save it to my downloads folder. I'm then going to navigate to the downloads folder. Alpine Encounter, and it comes in two. Oh, this is perfect. This is a double-sided one. I'm glad I found this. Alpine has two sides, and each side is one disk image. Alpine 1 and Alpine 2. We need both of these DSK files moved into our disks directory. Okay, so we're going to I'll just drag them over. Boom, yes. And then we're going to take this one. Oops, cancel. You're going to find that there are other disk formats. There are disk formats for the 1.44 meg floppy disks. I'm sorry, this 800K 3.5-inch floppy disks. And there's also a format called .do. This software is compatible with all of those. However, you have to make sure that your drives and diskettes are compatible with that format. The DSK format is the most common for this website, and that will allow you to decompress onto any 5.25-inch floppy. Okay, so we've got our disk images. Now what do we do? Well, we need to start the software. On Windows, all you've got to do is navigate to wherever the software is installed and just launch the ADT Pro batch file. The software requires Java to be installed. It works with Java 6 and Java 7. I don't know about Java 8, but I'm running Windows XP, so I can't run that anyway. Once you launch the batch file, it automatically opens up an interface that lets us basically set up our serial connection, or audio connection if you choose to do that. Go to File, Serial Configuration, and make sure that your COM port is set to whichever COM port your virtual serial port is connected to, or your USB port. I set mine to COM 4 in the System Properties menu under Devices. So that's what I'll use. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your working directory for disk images is correct. So we're going to go to Change Working Directory, and it should be Disks. And we can open up the tree and expand it and take a look at where disks really is. It should be under the ADT Pro 2.0 or whatever version you're running folder. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is something that you may not... Oh yeah, then set working directory. There we go. We're now going to do something that you may not have realized can be done, unless you've already walked through this or done it yourself. We're going to boot our Apple II without any diskettes of any kind. Disks, we'll just take them all out. There's nothing in here, there's nothing in here. We're going to boot it directly off the serial connection using bootstrapping. Now this is how I was able to get it to work. I actually have a client diskette, but it didn't work. It wouldn't work at all. This is the only way I could get it to work. So we're going to click on Serial to open up the connection to the virtual serial port, and as you can see, it's now connected. We're then going to fire up the Apple II. And it says check disk drive. What we're going to do now is open up a command line. Go to Control Reset, and it automatically opens up a command line. Type in the following. Oh, before we do that, let's click on bootstrapping and click on ProDOS Speedy Boot. Okay? This actually tells you how to do it. IN#2. That 2 refers to the slot that the modem port is in. On the Apple IIc, it is always slot 2. Same with the 2GS. And it may vary depending on what your options are on your specific model. If you have an Apple IIe with a super serial card, it may be a different port. You've got to figure that out first. So we're going to type IN2, and it's not case sensitive. IN#2. Hit return. Nothing happens. That's good. The next thing we need to do is type in 14B. So in order to do that, we have to press Control A, we get a flashing question mark. This is unique to the Apple IIc. Most other models will come up with a command or something that has to do with a super serial card. But in the Apple IIc, you're going to get a flashing question mark, and you're going to type in 14B, 14B, and it won't echo off. That's normal. Hit return. That's it. Now we hit OK, and watch what happens. Instantly, it starts transferring data over the serial connector cable to the Apple II's memory. And this is actually sending it in hex code. It takes approximately 2 minutes. When I did this on my Macintosh MacBook Pro, it took almost half that time. And then you're going to get a progress bar over here as it's sending the boot image, or the memory dump. Okay, here we go. And this is a good sign. Loading MLI. And then this takes approximately 1 minute or so. There it goes. We've now successfully started the boot process. Once we do that, we can control everything right from the Apple IIc. A good thing to do while we're waiting for this to boot is to think about what we want to put on our first floppy. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to extract both sides of that particular program I found. So why don't we go ahead and prepare our blank floppy to be modified. Because we just downloaded a two-sided program, we need to make sure that this disk can be written on both sides. That's very easy to do. We should actually have a little Kevlar sleeve here. Kevlar, what is that? Not Kevlar, what is this stuff called? I don't know, I don't remember. So we're going to put it in a sleeve. Still booting. Okay. I don't have a disc notcher, so we're going to be using scissors and a razor blade. Okay. All you want to do is make sure that the notch that you cut is exactly opposite of the existing notch. So we're going to use the guide on the back. We're going to use these little melt marks as guides. Most of the software that you download will be single-sided, but there will be exceptions, and this is one of them, and I'm glad I found it, because I can show you how to notch a disc. You want to cut in about maybe 1/8 of an inch. Looks like our machine's booted. Yep, there it is. Alright, I'm going to show you, I'm just using my scissors to cut a little notch like that. Okay, then we're going to use a razor blade. Right here I got one. I just did one of these earlier today and it worked perfect. So, alright, now let's go ahead and cut through the material, being careful not to cut our fingers off. Just like that. Okay. Now it should be able to split up there. Now, if you don't want to do it this way, you can purchase a disc notching tool. They're getting hard to find, but I'm sure they're out there on eBay. I mean, I found a lot of cool stuff there. Okay. Now this is critical to keeping the double-sided software on the same diskette. You can always span it over 2 disks if you decide not to modify one like this. There are some people who may choose to do that. Alright, so we've notched it successfully. Okay, perfect. The cool thing about ADT Pro is it not only allows you to transfer data, but it also allows you to format diskettes right from within the program. So why don't we do that? We're going to format both sides of our diskette first. We're going to choose Format. Okay. The I/O error warnings are nothing to be concerned about. That just means either the disk is unformatted or there's nothing in the drive. So why don't we go ahead and format slot 1 or slot 6 drive 1. Yes. Okay, and then we're going to take it out. We're going to do it again on the other side. Okay, good. Yes, format another. Flip it over. And all we just did is we notched out the Write Protect tab so that it can now write to the other side. Nope, we're done. Next, we're going to select Receive. At this point, your connection should be successful since we're actually running right off the serial port. We're going to choose Receive, and it comes up with a blinking cursor. If you hit it again, unless you know the file name, which I don't, just hit Return again, and it gives us a list of everything that is in that directory, the disk directory, which contains all of our disk images. We're going to move our drive, or disk, back to side 1, just like that. And we're going to select the image that we want to decompress, alpine1.dsk, that's side 1. And we're going to put it on drive 1, slot 6, blank. There's a bit of a size mismatch, but let's give it a shot. I've actually had this happen once before, and it did work. Oh, it's a 1600 block. So this is not going to work. So what we're going to do is let it time out, and then we'll do it again. This time we'll try a different program, not a different double-sided one. I want to show you how that works. Yeah, the thing is, some of these disk images don't come with any documentation, so you really don't always know what you're getting until it's too late, until you've already got it downloaded. This could be for a 1.44 meg diskette, or sorry, an 800K. Yeah, so it's going to time out, it freezes, and okay, done. So let's go ahead and reformat our disk again. Back on side 1. Let's try a different disk image. Alright, why don't we download something else? Okay, so that one was no good. Alright, let's try Apple Panic. Let's see how that comes. None of these have any real documentation, so again, we don't really know what the original format is. We're just kind of hoping that it works. Alright, Apple Panic. We've got actually two different files there. Let's try applepanic.do. We'll put that in our disks folder. Okay. Alright, we're done formatting. So let's go to Receive. And it should already be there. There it is. Okay. Let's put a different disk in there. I think that disk has to be wiped again. But let's do a rescan. The R key does a rescan of whatever's in there, and okay, good. We are now receiving applepanic.do. It was just that fast. I mean, you saw how quickly it took to download the file, move it to the right place, format the disk, and decompress it onto the correct diskette. It was just that fast, which is why anyone can do this, and it doesn't really take a lot of knowledge of the inner workings of these machines. There are more advanced ways of doing this. You could actually run this in DOS to make it just a little more difficult to use if you wish. But there we go. We now have a copy of Apple Panic on this diskette, which we will now boot from. I'm going to restart my machine. With the Apple IIs, when you turn the power off to restart, you want to wait a few seconds to clear out the memory. Sometimes, if you turn it on too quickly, it doesn't come up right. It doesn't boot. It just puts garbage on the screen. Every Apple I've ever had has done that. So now we're ready to start up. I think we got a bad image. Yeah, we got a bad image. Sorry, guys. This really works well, I swear to God. But sometimes you just get bad images. It's the second or third one I've had today that's done that. Alright, let's try something else. But as you see, I built up quite a library there of different... I'm trying to delete the ones that don't work. So we got 2 bad ones in a row. Of course, while I'm filming, that always happens. Alright, let's boot it up again. Okay, remember the commands. Control reset. ProDOS, speedy boot. Alright. IN #2. Oops. Backspace doesn't work. Remember, this is an Apple. IN #2. Control A. 14B. Okay, now we're ready to send the image. There it goes. Okay, for our next attempt, I've downloaded b1bomber.dsk from that very same website that I love so much. And we're now waiting for ADT Pro to come up. But yeah, you're going to have to play with this a little bit. You might find that some of your new old stock diskettes may not be of any use. This one could be bad, but we'll find out in a minute. I'm going to reformat it. We're going to extract B1 Bomber to it, and then we're going to hopefully see some action. The Apple mouse, this is the 2C mouse. I've only found one application that actually uses it. There's a mouse add-on for the AppleWorks software suite, and it's actually for AppleWorks 2.0, and it does work. The mouse actually does work, but I haven't really found much that takes advantage of it, unfortunately. Most of the software was written for the educational version, or the educational market, and they didn't always have mice, because mice were very expensive to add to any computer. You're talking a couple $100 here for a mouse, so not many people had them. So not many software developers wrote for them. It's kind of like the Virtual Boy. Alright. Okay, we're now going to format our disk. You can also write to disk 2 if you have one. Alright. There we go. Alright. We're going to receive the file. And what did I do? B1 Bomber, B2 Bomber, there it is. Okay. So everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong, and I'm glad that happened, because at least you can see that this isn't a perfect process. Things can happen, and they often do. But let's hope that this one works. Okay. And there we are. Okay, we're going to shut her down and fire it back up. Hey, it worked. Okay, there we are. I believe this is a text adventure. But nevertheless. Alright, so we have to... Oh, so it gives you a scenario and you have to respond. Command. Let's see, RA. Another bit of advice, if you're playing... We're going to bomb AR. Whatever. Anyway, this is a graphic-less game, so you're gonna have to know how to play it. But anyway, there we go. It worked, but that's it. Trying to get data or software for the Apple II is easy as a click of a mouse, kinda, and can be very adventurous because you never know what you might find. B1 Bomber. And this particular game, according to the copyright date, is 34 years old, and it still plays, just as it did 34 years ago. Probably not as fun as Candy Crush, but hey, it was free and easy to get. So enjoy your Apple II. It'll probably outlast you. This one's already 25 years old and is still cranking out the pixels. Thanks for watching, and good luck finding information on this, because I went online and there's not a lot, but there's also not a lot to really worry about. It's easy to do. You can run it on anything, and as I said earlier, you can run this on Yosemite. I've just proved that it worked, and on my MacBook Pro. All I had to do was install Java for Yosemite, and bada boom, bada bing. It worked. Okay, well, thanks again, and keep on trucking.